This face probably needs no introduction. A lot of you know him from Dancing with the Stars, but now he is deep into the musical theater world, which makes my musical theater heart so happy. Henry, it is so good to see your face. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for organizing this, by the way. I had so many plans, so I just managed to fit this in.
Glad you could squeeze me into your Saturday. I always like to ask everyone kind of at the start of this, how are you holding up with quarantine? Where are you right now? What are you doing every day?
I'm in Kalamazoo, Michigan, out of all the places that I could be. I'm doing okay. Honestly, I'm with my fiance, I'm with her family. So, we're sort of keeping things going and focusing on doing the right things and staying inside and only going out for groceries. Luckily, we have 4 dogs here. So, I'm basically letting them out, letting them in, letting them out, letting them in. It's great. It's as good as you can possibly be in a bad situation like this.
Of course. And you guys had a very unique situation. Your fiance, I believe she was in Toronto with the Hamilton cast, and you were on the road with My Fair Lady. Can you talk about what those last couple of days before everything shut down, what was it like for the two of you?
I mean, we haven't lived together for probably a year plus now. We've just visited each other. So it was just a situation of I was waiting from my company management with My Fair Lady to tell us, what's going on. We kind of knew that we were in Columbus, Ohio. We kind of knew that it would be shut down, but we always have to wait on the theaters to tell us, can we do a show or not? And
Right.
so the Ohio governor, put that mandate in for no gatherings, 100 plus, and so at that point, I just booked a flight to Toronto. Luckily, I could actually do that.
You could still
And
travel at that point.
right. And I was first class all the way because there was literally nobody in the plane. It was like amazing, but spooky at the same time. And then got through to Toronto. We stayed in Toronto because Toronto was kind of lagging in terms of their ordinances. And then they said, it came down that they were shutting things down. And we just thought, what are we going to do? We're both not Canadian citizens.
Right.
What if something happens? I know that like their healthcare system is good, but it's good for citizens. It's not going to help us in any way,
Right.
shape, or form if something goes down. And how do we get food? And so we just were like, let's get the hell out of here. So we packed up, put her dog, in the car, put everything in the car, and drove, through the border to Michigan. So that was a bit
Wow.
nerve wracking for me because I was like, wait, are they gonna allow me back in? I don't know. You think crazy
Right,
things.
because
So
you're Australian. There's so many things to think about in moments like
exactly.
that. Yeah, that is crazy. Did she have an apartment in Toronto? Is that because I know there was a sit down production, right?
Yeah, she had an Airbnb for 3 months. So
Gotcha.
it was like
Hmm.
her second, no, it was like a month she was into it. So she had another 2 months left. This is just crazy town, everyone up and leaving. And thank God Airbnb did their, refund policy for this,
Good.
the COVID-19. So we all had to submit a few documents, but we got our money back. So that's great. And then we made it through. So, just sheltering. Yeah, exactly. Totally.
What are you being told about the My Fair Lady tour? And same with Kelsey with Hamilton. Do you guys know?
We've been getting pretty consistent updates, and it's just they're waiting for each state to issue some sort of different um, order of like when we can socially gather, which I'm assuming is going to be the last thing to go back in. But I think probably end of May might be a time. I know that Hamilton has so many different companies that
Mhm.
they're all saying different things, and it's probably be end of June or beginning of June. Like, not all of these dates I'm saying are arbitrary and they're not official. So
Right.
it's like,
And they
you
could
know,
change. Like
it
we
could
could say
change.
something today and
Yeah.
tomorrow it's something totally different because we just got an order yesterday in Los Angeles County, not the state, but in Los Angeles County only is May 15th, while the rest of the state is April 30th.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's just going to be a waiting game. And, it's kind of interesting because I think I'm slightly more of an introvert than I am an extrovert because I really enjoy being at home and just doing like basic things. There's like a little gym here, a really, really, really little one, but it's like got everything well, I'm making it have everything that I could possibly want. So I'm just
Right.
like hitting the stride of quarantine life and enjoying all the social media, like the memes about quarantine
Yes.
life. It's so funny. So anyway, what are you gonna do?
Are you like me? I'm an extroverted introvert. So I like to be home, but in social situations, I am okay. But honestly, the best place is my house.
I'm totally that. I realize I'm my one of my love languages is quality time.
Mhm.
And so this is kind of like hitting that for me. It's like, okay, we're all together. I really enjoy that. I wish my family was here
Mhm.
as well. And we're kind of making meals together, and it's kind of really sweet, and I really enjoy it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, out of all of the bad, I think there is something good that and people are spending more time with their family and obviously not their friends, but maybe their roommates. You just never know. I mean, this is going to be something we look back at and go, "Holy cow, we lived through this."
And I mean, that's an interesting thought that I'm like, I think it's going to take a while to process. But I was listening to um, somebody talk about the Great Depression and how the Great Depression was the shadow that people lived in for the rest of their lives once
Mm.
they got through it. And I don't know if this is exactly the same, but it's certainly, I think, going to have ongoing consequences and effects on all of us. I'm like, maybe I should invest in a little bit more canned food, just like save it for a rainy day. You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, staples are a good thing, like the can of beans, the bag of rice.
Some sardines,
Yep.
you know, I'm all about a good sardine or tuna.
Getting your omega-3s in.
Yeah, right.
No, it's
So
good.
yeah,
And I do think for all of us, especially in the States, living through 9/11 was something that did change our world too. And so this is going to have a similar effect in a different way. But I think, again, we will live with this. It will be something we will think about and remember.
totally.
I want to talk about your whole musical theater life because I do love that you moved to New York and you just kind of like dove head first. I saw you when you were out here with the Dirty Dancing tour, which feels like a million years ago,
But that was literally a lifetime ago.
and like the rainiest day ever in Los Angeles.
We
um,
made it work.
We did make it work. But this has been such a great thing for you. Talk about what made you really want to dive head first into this, because you have to be a triple threat. You can't just be like, I'm a good dancer, hire me. You have to be able to sing and act too.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. It's just such an interesting path that I've taken because I did burn the floor years ago at the Longacre Theatre in New York, and that experience really just cemented in my mind that, oh my God, you can sing, actually sing, not like recorded or pre-recorded. You're singing on stage, you're speaking on stage, you're dancing, and you're like really dancing full out on stage. I mean, we didn't do that in Burn the Floor, the singing and the acting, but we danced, and I
Mhm.
watched other shows that did that kind of thing that I was like, oh my God, you can do that? This is a thing. And so I fell in love with it. And I just knew, back then that it would be a real uphill battle because I'd never trained in any sort of, formal training for performing arts. So I was just sort of like, okay, eventually I'll get there. And it took a long time, a lot of training, a lot of mistakes, and luck just sort of happened. I met my fiance on Dirty Dancing,
Uh,
and she lived in New York, and I was like, well, what am I doing in LA? Number one, I knew that she was going to be the one, and number two, it just made sense because that's where I wanted life to continue. So I moved to New York, and you figure it out the rough and tumble way of
yep.
what's right, what's wrong, what you need to do, get an equity card, go to these auditions, sign up for auditions, and then the rigmarole of like the actual audition process, which, by the way, I realize I absolutely love auditioning. I love that feeling. I don't know. It's very So You Think You Can Dance, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
and then you kind of go, okay, well, this is where I suck, so I need to go find people that can help me suck less.
Mhm.
And then you just cross your fingers and hope that one of these stories that you end up auditioning for is a story where you could be a character in, and the creative team believe in you, and you can execute enough in the audition to satisfy the requirements. And so it's just this crazy world of like, okay, you got it, and it's like out of 100 times you get it, 1% of that, one time you get through. So it's just been a really interesting process and a real interesting growth that I've had to take on. But it was like I knew I wanted to do it, so I was like, I've got to somehow make it happen. And it's happened now 3 times, and My Fair Lady is the first sort of legit musical theater show that I've ever been a part of. The cast is insanely talented. I'm in awe of all of them. And we'll continue, and I can't wait for us to continue and continue doing shows, and also keep the craft, honing the craft. And so it's wonderful. I feel blessed.
You are a swing, and for people who don't know what a swing does, these are the hardest jobs in the business, in my opinion, because oftentimes if you have 2 members out in your cast, you might be walking one person's track and singing another person's track. So explain to people who don't know what a swing is, what your job involves.
As a swing, you cover all ensemble parts. It's like the equity maximum is 10. So at any given time, I need to know 10 people's tracks, vocally and physically, to go on in a moment's notice. I'm also an assistant dance captain, which is kind of like you help the dance captain to keep the show in its creative bubble as it left from the creatives, as well as teach new people their parts and teach understudies who are like swings, but for principal actors, their parts. So all of that to say, it's just like a huge jumble of things in your head that you just have to be ready to do. And it's a lot of hurry up and wait. As swings, it's kind of hard, like, to know or predict when people are going to call out, essentially, when they call out because they're sick or they're injured or whatever. So we're always like, hey, how you guys going? Everyone feeling good?
I know. Do I have to brush up on your track tonight? Or is that flu getting to
exactly.
you?
I hear Colin's voice is maybe, okay, Colin's track, let's go. And the interesting thing is every show is different. Every show is completely different. So there's a different way of tracking the show, because some shows are more dance heavy. So you need to track them like a dancer would track, some shows like this one have more sort of movement of props, movement in and around people. There's safety concerns that you have to be aware of. And then there's the vocal parts. This show is extremely vocal. So you have to know where and what. And it's just, it's a completely different show than I've ever done. And I love it. It's just, it's so wonderful. So
it's a great challenge, honestly. And it's a good way to challenge your brain. And I think sometimes when people are on tour, they get a little bored. It does happen. You're never going to get bored with what you're doing with My Fair Lady.
The anxiety that, I'm like, have stress dreams of like, who am I today? Who am I actually? And it's so funny because I've gone on now for, I believe, three tracks. And each of those tracks is not one person's track. They're an amalgamation of 2 people's tracks, because an understudy has gone in for a principal who's out. So I do his part, but only his ensemble part. He does his regular featured track stuff. So then when he does that, I go in for somebody else who's, it's kind of difficult to explain, but
it's just constantly a puzzle. Yeah. And,
so
but I'm always amazed with what swings do, because I'm like singing one track, dancing one track, moving one track. It's unbelievable. And God forbid, like, the flu swipes through a cast or a whole bunch of people get injured at the same time. You can go on for, many, many tracks. I know what's happened on tours before. I've heard the stories. It's incredible.
It's been wonderful. And the other thing I like about this show, I forgot to mention, is the actual, besides the talent on stage, the costumes are unbelievable. They're like $10,000 vintage costumes that I've never worn anything like that before. We have one number called Asket, and Asket Gavot, which was actually an event for, I don't want to like get it wrong, because then people be like, no, that's wrong. But it was like it was kind of like a hoity-toity, very high like society event where they would watch the races at this race course called Asket Gavot, and the costumes are insane. I posted a photo I can't remember which one, but you'll see it's like top hat. It's this kind of, neutral mauve color. And it is my favorite number. Everyone's just walking. You're literally walking, but with so much intention, and everyone has a story, a background. So you, as a swing, when you come into it, you're like, why are you looking at me like that? Oh, okay.
We have a
I guess
story.
yes, this is a story. Great. Okay. So you jump into it in a different way, and our principals, Laird McIntosh, Shireen, are unbelievable. Shireen plays Eliza, and Laird plays Henry Higgins. They are so unbelievably funny. It's crazy. The rest, everyone else is amazing as well. Adam Gropper and oh my God, I could just, yeah, they're all
The whole
unbelievable.
cast.
So the
I know you.
costumes really got me in that number.
Are they heavy? Because I would
Yes,
imagine, yeah, I imagine they
yes,
are.
yes. They're like, you're never wearing like less than 2 layers. So you have like your undershirt and your like briefs or whatever, and then you put things on top of it. And usually you underdress an extra costume for a quick change.
Mhm.
So it's just like the sweatiest show that you never move like insanely crazy for more than 2 minutes. So it's like, wow, okay, cool, this is great, I could get used to it.
I love it. I love it. I really want to see it. I know you guys had a nice sit down plan for Los Angeles. Oh, fingers crossed.
Goes, I mean, it so far it's still going, so
Okay.
you know
Okay. All
yeah.
right. I'll still keep it on my calendar. um, are there other shows that you kind of have your eye on going, I hope one day I have the opportunity to audition for this or get myself cast in this? Any ones that are currently running on Broadway?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of lean towards show. Like, actually, no, I don't care if it's physical or not, because both have their advantages in different ways. Physical meaning like a lot of dancing. One show that I think is really awesome, and I have a couple of friends in it that would be wonderful to be a part of, is Moulin Rouge. I really,
Baz, yeah.
I love everything about it. Obviously, Baz Luhrmann is a genius,
Sonia
and to be a part
Taya's
of,
choreography.
and Sonia Ty, yes, exactly. So, that would be awesome. But it's like I said before, each story is its own set of characters, and at any given time, if you fit, not everyone is going to be available. So if you fit into it, it's like the luck of the
That's
draw
right.
kind of thing. Even if you're perfect for the role that you're going in for, if they don't actually have an opening for it, or they see someone else that fits the mold or the story that they're looking for better, that's what it is. So at the end of the day, we're playing dress up, and you kind of have to have that in the back of your mind and not get too disappointed, because it's really hard.
The good thing though about Broadway casting directors, they keep people on file. Like, we love this person for the role. Not always available, but when the opportunity comes up, I know that they'll call people in and say, we have been holding you for the last 6 months for this, and now the opportunity's here.
It's crazy. I never realized how it worked, but the agents and the casting folk are, constantly having conversations, constantly like, so what do you think for this show? How about this? But, and everyone's advocating. And what's interesting is that the casting directors, the casting companies, they're awesome. They are totally, not only they keep you on file, but they keep you in the back of their mind for things like Magic Mike was one of those things that I got without auditioning. It was purely based on my agent, the casting company, and their negotiations, and being like, oh yeah, this makes sense. So it was like unbelievable how things like that happen, and truly, I don't think enough credit goes towards the casting agents, and our own representatives in terms of getting us jobs. So.
What makes the Broadway community so special? Because I always feel like they come together for so many different things, whether it's a situation like this, or every year, you get the big Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. I always love it when like the buckets come out and they're passing around and people are dumping in dollars for AIDS funding and research. What makes that Broadway community different than other parts of the dance community?
Such an interesting question. And so I've been so overwhelmed by my interactions with, let's just say, the Broadway community, because you have a people that are so incredibly competent in in these aspects of life that you would never know anything about. You know, voice is invisible, acting is invisible, dancing obviously is very visible, but you know, there's things like tap and ballet and jazz and different forms of contemporary dance that these people are just fluid and utterly competent in. And then on the other side of things, you know, you have nothing but to fight for your job. You know what I mean? And your life is not glamorous at all. You know, and it's a constant rejection that you get. So you've got this combination of really competent individuals, you know, in this impossible industry that are so strong, you know, in a personal way, because you have to come up with your own ways of dealing with that kind of rejection. And also you get injured and you have to deal with that. And money is not something that is, you know, as abundant as what you would have in TV and film, you know, so it's like you're a fighter. And so it's a community of fighters that have come together, and they, you know, they're always, you know, fighting for a good cause, and they're always there to, and they appreciate helping and also being helped, you know. So it's a very interesting community, and to say that I'm a part of it, I feel very grateful. You know, and that's not just like performers. I'm also talking about choreographers, because they have their own, you know, struggles, and they're extreme. You know, like associate choreographers, for example, they're not technically part of any particular union, so they don't have anyone advocating for them. So everything they do is off their own back, and those guys have an incredible amount of work to do. You know, they do just as much as the choreographer, and some cases, you know, they do more, because they have to be like a dance captain, which takes care of a show and puts it on people, but also teach new things. And you know what I mean? They're this sort of intermediary. So I'm talking about people like that. And, you know, everyone's got their lot. But this community seems to be a little more nose to the grindstone in terms of the real struggle of it. You know, I would say the other comparable community that I've been a part of that has had that is like competitive ballroom dancers, or you know, true theater or film actors, TV actors, you know, that are just every day going and trying to get these roles, or commercial dancers. You know, these are all things that I've like put my fingers in and tried.
You're like, I've been there.
The struggle is real. I think it's just in general with performing arts, but you know, that struck me with the Broadway community.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, I met you back in 2012. Long time. I know. Do you look back on your Dancing with the Stars years? Like, how did it help prepare you for what you're doing now?
I mean, I just posted, my latest post was from 2012, where I just left Australia. That was like my last photo shoot in Australia before coming for the troupe in Dancing with the Stars. Oh my God, it was a magical time. Honestly, it was like a culmination of a lot of things. Number one, I actually, you know, with Burn the Floor, we did a little preview for publicity reasons on Dancing with the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was like a little interview that I had at that time, and I was so gutted that I didn't get to be on Dancing with the Stars back. That was like 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was gutted. I was like, what did I do wrong? Why couldn't I, you know, there was all this sort of regret that I was living with. And then, you know, to have it pop up in the way that it did, it was overwhelming, and it was life-changing, because I'd always wanted to live in America. And it became real for a second when I did Superstars of Dance with representing Australia with Jason Gilkison. That was like Nigel Lithgow's NBC show that sort of didn't eventuate, but it was such a great experience. And then Burn the Floor in America. So I had all these tastes, and then finally, you know, this unbelievable gift, and I sort of set up my life thanks to Dancing with the Stars. You know, I got a place there. I filed for a green card. I did all the things that you're supposed to do to, you know, continue living there. Get a credit card.
Yes, legitimately, legally.
Credit. Yeah. So exactly, and that's a whole other process.
It's stressful too. I don't think people understand. Like, it's very stressful, and if it starts to run out, you have to go home and then wait your time out to come back after you reapply. It's a lot.
All the things that they require from you, it's crazy, and the money, it's so expensive. So it's like, you know, I have a lot of support for people that go through that process of becoming naturalized. So you know, it's great. I'm also up for citizenship this year. So I'm like, can we get out of quarantine so I can go and apply?
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah,
Congratulations. Are you ready to
thank you.
take your test?
Well, no, I haven't started anything, but I feel like I've been like doing study for years now because it's just the American system of governance is fascinating to me
Yep.
anyway. So you know, we'll see how that goes. But you know, kudos and credit to being on Dancing with the Stars. What an experience! All the people I met and got to work with, lifelong friends.
Mhm.
You know, it's a huge. That was a huge, if not one of the biggest moments of my life. So.
You know what I think is interesting too is that a lot of the choreographers who have worked on Dancing with the Stars over the years, a lot of them are migrating over to New York and starting to work on Broadway shows. I mean, or we've seen people kind of come back and forth between So You Think and Broadway, between Sonia Taya and Spencer Liff. I know Travis Wall's now living in New York City. So it's kind of nice to see more blurring of lines between the commercial and the theater worlds.
Yeah, it is. It's, you know, I think everyone's had the same sort of thought process, which is I have this to contribute. There are now all these avenues in which I could possibly contribute and put my stamp on. And, you know, why not? And I think that's the whole premise. You know, I was watching The Wizard of Oz yesterday, the
Mhm.
original with Judy Garland, and I haven't watched it since I was a kid. And I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, it's how is the Scarecrow so incredibly physically able, you know? And I found out he was like a famous dancer, but like I was thinking about what was his process because he's falling over constantly. He's constantly doing these isms, let's say, and so, same with the lion. Like
Mhm.
what? And it fascinated me. And I asked my fiance, I was like, "Do you think they came up with this by themselves?" And she was like, "Yeah, but I'm sure it was a collaboration. You know, the director probably said this, and they, you know, and they worked towards it." And so that, you know, why not, I think, is like the theme of the performing arts, you know, industry. It's you absolutely should expand yourself and not constrict yourself unless you're focusing on one thing. But you should try this and that, especially if you have an interest or something pulls you towards it, because God knows what you're going to contribute or what you're going to create that then could help others funnel into and then pull them out. You know what I mean? It's like it's a wonderful industry.
It really is. The creativity always blows my mind, honestly. Just when you think you've like seen it all, you haven't. That's the incredible part of it all.
It's so true.
It is so true. Is your wedding still on track
Yeah,
with
that's what we're talking about
coronavirus?
too. So that's in July. So
Okay.
we're kind of staying positive with it and hoping that that will eventuate because it's in Hawaii, so we would need to travel, and my family would travel. It's like the you know the middle ground.
That's a wonderful
Um,
place to get married, though.
oh my God, yeah, I've never been, so I'm just like, okay, sounds great. Let's go.
It's
You
gonna
know.
be great.
So I'm just you know fingers crossed, toes crossed, you know prayers, hoping. But you know at the end of the day, we all need to do the right thing
Be safe.
and stay healthy and be safe. So if it works, it works, and if not, we'll just go to the courthouse or do it somehow. You know, you know, it
You'll
is
be
what it is.
married, regardless. You'll be
Yeah,
married, and you can always, afterwards, you can always do a big party or go to Hawaii at a different time. That's the one
yeah.
good thing. Kauai's not going anywhere.
So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed.
All right, I'll think good thoughts for you. But I just have to say, it's so good to see your face. I'm so excited, it's like seeing everyone on Zoom because I'm like, humans, different humans. It's just like me and my husband and two cats that I've been looking at all the time. So
Well, it's so good to see your face too, and thank you for organizing this. It's like I feel like I haven't seen you in a million years, but it feels like we've been talking yesterday. You know what I mean?
I
It's
know, back at AfterBuzz doing our little like, hey, what did you think of this samba?
hopefully we get to do that again at some stage too. You know,
I hope so.
I'm
I
down.
really do. Yeah, we'll make it all happen for sure. Well, be safe, and I'm gonna fingers crossed on that wedding, and fingers crossed I'm gonna see you in LA in June. How about that?
Let's keep that on the forefront.
Yes, that's number one.
Cool.
Wedding number two. You got it. Thank you so much, Henry. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Have a great one.
You too. Bye bye.